All right. So ODOT's a big organization, got a lot of employees, they got a lot of projects going on. And so they decided to, we got a lot of stuff to present. So from ODOT, so we got Michael Weakley here, and he's going to present steering ODOT's asset management program with data-driven decisions. Welcome, Michael. I think, Joe, you need to stop. There you go, Joe. And so Michael, let's give you a screen share and there, good to go.
Can you see
Take it away. Yep, can see everything's looking good.
All right, everyone. So my name is Michael Weakley. I am the asset management program manager here at ODOT. So today I'm going to talk about making data-driven decisions with our asset management data, what we've done with that data. So first, just a little bit of background about how our office is set up. We currently sit in the Office of Data Governance. And in that office, we do have our GIS program, which just sold to people from there. We also have a data governance office, or I guess a section, and then a transportation asset management section. And with our office mission, we want to support ODOT's enterprise data-driven decision-making processes. So I think overall, it's been a challenge to go to this data-driven, let's use data. It's a major shift here at ODOT, and that's one of the reasons why asset management did get put in with this office with GIS. So my background is GIS. I was on the GIS team, but then now we're using GIS to utilize to make these important decisions about our transportation assets. Just a little bit about asset management. I know we've seen a couple presentations today about asset management, but generally speaking here, just the big thing at the bottom, quality data with well-defined objectives. And if you're not familiar with asset management, you just got on so our physical assets at ODOT, so such as your roadways, your pavement, your bridges, culvert signs, that's what we consider assets, and we want to plan and make good investment decisions about those, and also about safety. So to be able to do that, to do some data-driven, we have to have good data. And just a little more background about our asset management program. So ODOT owns $115 billion worth of assets. Most of it's pavement, but also we have a big chunk for bridges, culverts, and then we kind of have this other category here. And the other category, that's your signs fall into there, your guardrails, signals, the tower lights that you see, the striping on the roadways, those all fall into our other assets. So whenever I started at ODOT, we already had a pavement system and a bridge system. But one of the goals that we had was, what about for all these other assets? We want a way to maintain those. And that's where we use GIS to do that. To be able to manage our assets, I think the big theme that we have is people, processes, and technology. We want everyone to be doing the same processes, everyone on the same page on how to collect assets. And we want to be using technology to enable people to do good collections. So, back 10, 15 years ago, most people were just collecting on paper. So you'd have to go to the county office or the district office to get information about a sign. Now with some of our new technology, you're able to actually go into ArcGIS field maps and put that information in there, and then everyone's able to see that. So I'm going to go through some of these processes here before I get into some of the data-driven decisions we make. So first, the people. ODOT is a cross-functional organization. Even though we do have a transportation asset management office, or I guess section and an office, the section is about 4 people at central office. We highly lean on other people at ODOT and other offices. So like our asset owners are mostly engineers who are experts on that asset. We have district TIM coordinators who are GIS/data coordinators that are out in our 12 districts. ODOT is, we say we're centralized, but we're also decentralized. We have one central office and then 12 district office. And the district office is where most of our work's being done. Also, GIS team that's actually developing all these applications. We actually have our workers in the field that are doing all the inspections and inventories. And then all these other people too going down that are going to be using this information down the line. So I saw that in another presentation earlier about that stakeholder gathering. So it's really, you have to get that buy-in from everyone here because everyone wants to use this information. We want everyone to be able to easily access this information. So I have a couple of slides on our processes, and really that's what makes, if you want your data to actually mean something at the end of the day, people have to be collecting data the same way and they have to be following the same processes. So this is just a general, ODOT's general asset management process. We need to get asset inventory and condition. We need to establish performance targets for funding, develop work plans. And then after we start doing that, how can we continue to improve what we have? And then we want to use this information to communicate to executive management, which at ODOT's are directors, assistant directors, deputy directors, with what should our direction be with asset management. So a lot of the tools that I'm going to be showing is how we kind of go through this circle that I have on the screen right now. Also, process-wise, the asset process. So again, before, we couldn't tell you where all of our signs are or all of our guardrails. Now with our new processes of adding assets into our asset program, it goes all the way to, are you planning to put a sign? How are you designing it? It needs to be constructed. And then once it's out there, that asset needs to be maintained. So now that we have the 12 different districts all doing the same process. So asset lifecycle and following this process was very important to make sure that all the data that's being collected is the same. And then also I mentioned the 12 different districts. We had to standardize our data by doing those processes, but we also had to create what we call our ODOT standard attributes. This way we can query, filter data all the same across all of ODOT. And we had them for asset management, and then we're trying to get them to other data sets as well. And whenever we're pushing this information to our warehouse, people that are familiar with the data, they can always filter and query off of familiar fields. So this is a big one, especially like something like ODOT district. Is it 0, 2 versus 2? Before, people had to do silos to make sure all the data was the same. But now what we do is we say that it has to be a certain way, a padded number. And also our GIS team, they've created automation that all this information is tied to our LRS. So we can say, let's find the assets on I-71 between mile marker A and mile marker B. There's gonna be more information on that coming a little later. And then our technology that we use here at ODOT to collect the data, to show the data, field maps to do our data collection, web app builder, we have that to view so people can get into the data, view it. We're switching over to Experience Builder here soon. ArcGIS dashboards, Power BI to do some reporting. Also TIMS, that's our public portal, ArcGIS Online server. And also we want to make sure that everything that we have is enterprise data sets. So as we are people are collecting data, everyone has access to the same data. We want to get rid of silos. So everything we have is enterprise. If someone's out in the field right now collecting data, it's people are able to see that data right away. And this is just a plug for TIMS. So this is what our data looks like. this is a public, and I think most people probably do know what TIMS is, but this is like a public place where we have all of our GIS data go to. So we do have an asset section. So all of the assets that we're collecting at ODOT is public record. So if you're ever curious, maybe you're a local government and we do have roads and that are going through that ODOT does maintain, we do collect those assets, and we should have assets on if you're ever curious to know what data we have. So now data has been collected. We're using the same processes. People are on board. What do we do with all this data? So here in our collector program, that's where we collect our other assets. We have over 1 million inventory records, and then we have 300,000 inspection records. And that doesn't even count some miscellaneous assets that we have that people like collecting other data, and when they use these databases to collect, such as Adopt a Highway, pollinator sites. And one of the biggest complaints that we've gotten from some people is like, are you just having us collect data to collect data? What are you doing with that? So the challenge that our office has gotten is, well, let's make this data usable. So yeah, we have 700,000 signs and supports, but what do those 700,000 records tell us? What should we be doing with that? So just want to get into a little bit of our dashboards. Here's just a couple screenshots from one of our, we call it like our tier 1 asset dashboard, where we're starting to check to see, well, what's our progress on inspections? Are the districts getting their inspections completed? It's ODOT inspecting these assets. We don't want the assets to not be safe. So there are these condition-based and interval-based inspections depending on the asset. And then based on that inspection, there is a condition put on there for some of them. So here I have an example. Here's a screenshot of our bridges. So good versus fair versus poor. And again, I'm just going to go back to the other slide, 1 million records, but then what catches people's eye is quick and easy information to be able to decipher from that. So even though I don't have bridges on that last one, but we have a lot of bridges in Ohio, and this is the information that our executive directors want to see, the district people, they want to see, well, how are bridges performing? And then some of the other slide I had with the performance targets, we had, well, I think 97% of our bridges need to be in that good or fair category. So once you start going and seeing, well, ODOT's hitting that 97%, but is each district, is there one district that's falling behind? And we're using this now to make those decisions and make sure that these inspections and these conditions are being met. And I have some time here, so I'm going to get out of my presentation and just bring up our dashboard. So what you see here, we call it our tier 1 dashboard, and it goes through the kind of those 3 things with the inventory, what we have, information that people will be using at ODOT. And because we have the 12 different districts, you can always filter by your districts. And those inspection cycles, so based on whatever inspection cycle you are, which the asset has, what's that complete cycle? So as you see here, our bridges are about 25% complete, culverts at 60. Why is that? Why are culverts really important here that people are on top of, and we're way ahead of schedule? It's based on calendar year, but bridges are a little behind. So these are the type of questions that we're starting to ask and get the engineers here at ODOT to see if there's anything that we can be doing to make those processes better. And then also condition. So great, we're getting everything inspected, but what condition is everything in? So PCR, that's our pavement rating. We have a goal of 85 for our priority system. So hey, we're 87, we're hitting that as statewide. And then as you go down, you can see, are we hitting our goals? Are we not hitting our goals with our culverts? And we don't have goals for all of our assets, but we're starting, our job is starting to put those goals into place and seeing what they are. And A lot of times engineers don't know where to start, so we get the data in. So here's our sign data, our green, those are good and very good. Red is poor. They're using that to say, well, what should we have? Is it acceptable to have this 5% poor down here for signs, or do we need to get those fixed? So our office doesn't make those decisions, but we provide that data to the experts to be able to facilitate for them to make those decisions. And one more I wanted to show as well that I thought was pretty cool that someone made was they used our culvert and bridge data to see GA, that's our general appraisal. Basically your general appraisal is your rating. So what bridges drop their rating? So this one here, we had 117 bridges in ODOT that dropped by 2 to 4 points. And then we can use this report here to click and see which ones dropped and where are they. And don't know why, but a lot of them are in Central Ohio. So trying to figure out what's going on there that those ratings are dropping so fast. So that was actually a report that was built by someone else that wasn't in our office, but we were able to enable them to create these reports based on our data. And because we are cut in the same way, they were able to trust that data to do that. And just a couple more just to get into some of the ArcGIS dashboards that we have, very similar, just looking at how many inspections do we have due versus overdue, what type of lights do we have out there. So again, before our program, we did not have this information about highway lighting, but because we've given those iPads out to people and go out and collect through ArcGIS dashboard, we can start making this information to make those data-driven decisions. So I'm going to get back into my presentation here. And this still fits with the condition. So at ODOT, we do have critical success factors. So ODOT's mission here, our asset preservation does fall into the improved safety, take care of what we have. So here I picked on a district that was in Northeast Ohio, so District 4. We're looking overall, we are hitting all of our preserve our asset goals, but there are a couple of counties that aren't hitting them throughout ODOT. So we're able to provide this information to those county managers, to the district offices, and they can make plans to start improving. So for here, Summit County wants to improve their culverts. They have a lot of poor conduits out there, so they want to get those improved to get their numbers up. One other big thing that we've started this year is funding for our assets. So we've always had funding mechanisms for pavement and bridges, but we didn't have any other way to fund anything else because we didn't have trustworthy data sets. So for the first time, they said that we're starting to trust your data that we have. So let's fund our other assets based on what you have in the collector program. And that was an interesting one because some people were very nervous about it because, well, what if I don't have all my guardrail collected? What if I don't have all my signs collected? But what we found was instead of waiting for everyone to have a perfect inventory, once we said, hey, we're going to allocate money based on your inventories, then we saw a big pickup on people collecting their data and making sure their data is right. So once you tie that funding to it, people are going to want to make sure they want the money. So they're going to start collecting that data. And it's a way to justify that you need the money. Right now, it's just based on your inventory. So if you have more guardrails, you get more money for guardrail. In the future, what we want to start doing is we want to do a condition base, but just like I mentioned before, that people at this point, they didn't trust our conditions. So as we start building that trust in our data, we will start doing condition-based or age-based data or age-based decisions. And one thing here, so this is for fiscal year 2025. We're going to be allocating $175 million to our districts for other asset funding. And one thing that we had to make sure that I guess for lack of a word, for fairness, some districts were losing money based on this. Before we were just guessing based on past money that was spent, how much money they need. But once we started putting, having an inventory base, you see like District 1, District 9, 10 lost money, whereas District 8 had a huge gain of money. This is out of date. Once we found out was there's a lot of QC that needed to be done. Some districts were collecting data that ODOT didn't own because they want to know where it is. And then that actually boosted their numbers. Once we noticed that, we started having people clean up their data, put the correct maintenance on there. If the sign's not there anymore, retire the sign, and then now that won't be included for funding. So again, tying money to this has really cleaned up our data sets. And then lastly here, major one, I kind of hit on this a little earlier, is our work plans. So ODOT, we have limited amount of money to go fix those $115 billion worth of assets that we have. So if we're gonna start fixing assets, what's the best way to spend our money to fix those assets? So what we do at ODOT is that the districts do present to, they create a work plan to say, well, these are the bridges, these are the culverts, these are the signs that we're gonna replace or work on. And here on the right, kind of the asset preservation approach. You have a brand new car, you don't do any maintenance to it, it breaks down and it costs a lot of money to fix it. The second one, you do some small planned investments, oil changes, tire rotation, and your car runs like new. So even though you are spending money throughout, you save money in the long run. And that's what this graph is to the left is showing. So over here, you see the green line going up and down. That's someone doing some maintenance on an asset to bring up the score a little bit, goes down, do some more work on it. And we want to provide good data to our workers to know, well, what do they need to actually go out and fix. And some of the complaints are that they've had is, well, we don't know, or they're trying to get the philosophy out of they don't want to have the worst bridge in the state. But we're saying, hey, ODOT can spend their money more efficiently. We can spend the money of taxpayers' money better if we start fixing our good and fair conditions rather than always fixing the pores. So to be able to convince people to do that, we have to have this data showing that we're saving money, and some of the districts that are doing that are saving money. So with that, those are just a couple of ways that we are using our asset data for data-driven decisions. We do in the future looking at collecting data with LiDAR, some machine learning, AI. I know it's a big thing here. One of the big things we're focusing on is data quality. I mentioned that over and over. People don't like to make data-driven. They'll always find that 1% where it doesn't work. So we're always trying to make sure that we have the right information in our data sets so that we can make these really big and broad decisions that we have here. So with that is all I have for today. So any questions?
Hey, Michael, we do actually have a question. Richard Reynolds asks, what is ODOT using to collect this field data? We are a third-party geotechnical consultant and would love to implement something similar for our GIS services.
So we're using ArcGIS field maps to collect our data.
Okay. That's the only one I see. But actually what we can do, Michael, is we can put you in backstage, and when and there's Michael's contact information if you have any questions after all of this. But if you have any questions for him now that he can answer in the Q&A panel, please feel free to put something in there, question for him. All right. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate
Great.
your presentation today.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Let me stop this.